It's the third day of the Iowa legislative session and the second day of protest at the Iowa State House. Things may not be going that well for Governor Branstad. We'll talk with Mary Beth Gardam later in the program. She's at the State House today with the protests surrounding corporate money. We'll also talk with Iowa Policy Project's Peter Fisher, his response to Branstad's proposal on commercial property tax relief. And first, we're going to kick the show off with a conversation with Mary LaHaye about puppy mills. Stick around, folks. We'll be with you in a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Ed Fallon here, folks. Gateway Market and Cafe is your locally owned source for specialty groceries. Enjoy chef-crafted, prepared foods, artisan baked goods, organic produce, specialty cheeses, and hand-selected wines and craft beer. Visit the lively cafe for breakfast, lunch, or dinner 7 days a week. Gateway Market is centrally located on the corner of Martin Luther King Jr. Parkway and Woodland Ave. Stop by or visit www.gatewaymarket.com for more details. That's Gateway Market, folks. Good food, great community.
Hello, Mid-American Energy.
I'm very concerned that you want to bill me an extra $5,000 to build a nuclear reactor. Do you know we're in the middle of a recession?
Oh, we were hoping you wouldn't hear about that until after the legislature had taken action.
Why not let your shareholders pick up the tab?
Oh, way too risky for our shareholders. We need you, our loyal customers, to pay for it.
Wait, let me see if I understand this. Mid-American wants to build a nuclear power plant in 10 or 20 years, and they want me to pay for it now?
That's right.
Well, I'll just take my business elsewhere.
Sorry, we're a monopoly. What we say goes.
I've heard nuclear power is more expensive than other sources.
Yes it is.
And I've heard there's no plan for how to dispose of nuclear waste.
We're looking at shooting it into the sun.
Well, I'm not going to sit back and let you make bad decisions with my money.
We're betting you will.
Stop Mid-American's power grab. Call your legislators today. 281-3371. 281-3371.
Paid for by Physicians for Social Responsibility.
Located in the heart of Beaverdale, Tally's offers speedy and affordable rooftop lunch, catering for events both large and small, innovative cuisine, as well as vegetarian and gluten-free menus. Come to Tally's for live music, dry-aged steaks, Sunday brunch, and all-you-can-eat ribs every Monday night. Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering at 2712 Beaver Avenue. Call 279-2067. That's 279-2067.
It's time to think about upgrading the efficiency of your furnace and air conditioner. Leonard Tinker Heating and Cooling has provided honest, competent service for over 20 years. Whether it's your home or business, for repair work or to install a more energy-efficient furnace or air conditioner, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422. That's 263-0422. For honest, competent heating and cooling service, call Leonard Tinker at 263-0422.
I love driving to Newton to see the races.
Me too, but I only have to drive across town.
You live in Newton?
Yep, Newton's got small town charm and it's close to Des Moines. I love the safe, friendly neighborhoods and family-owned businesses. And Newton's wind energy industry is really taking off.
How'd you find your home?
Dan Kelly with First Choice Realty. And Dan helped me find my office too.
Next time, instead of just speeding by, I'll stop in and check out Newton.
Why don't you check out Newton? Call Dan Kelly at 641-521-9260 or Dan Kelly at mchsi.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Downtown by Brother Trucker. Every once in a while, the music glitches, and it did just now. So I would sing it for you, but it wouldn't be the same without Andy Fleming leading the charge. That's a great tune, and they're a great band. And again, very happy to have Andy perform at the Lawsuits Are No Laughing Matter comedy show with Lee Camp this weekend. That was a fantastic event, folks. Lee Camp is truly one of the great comic talents in this country, and I hope next time he's in town. And yeah, I had breakfast with him this morning, said goodbye, and he will be back because he got a great reception here. Next time we'll have a lot more people. Okay, so we're talking about a whole bunch of issues today. We're going to talk about money in politics and about the effort to eliminate a corporation's ability to call itself a person. We're going to have a live call from the State House on that subject later in this program. Also, Peter Fisher, who is currently at the State House, will be calling us as he heads back to his office with the Iowa Policy Project. We're going to talk with him about the issue of commercial property tax relief, get his take on the governor's proposal on that subject. But first, an issue we don't know whether this issue is going to go forward at the State House, but it has received significant debate in the past, and it's one that a lot of people feel very, very strongly about: puppy mills. And in the studio with me is Eddie the puppy and Mary LaHaye. Mary, welcome to the program.
Thank you.
That is that dog. I mean, Eddies, generally speaking, are attractive life forms, but that one is cuter than most Eddies I've come in contact with.
Thank you. I think so too.
And he is a survivor of a puppy mill.
Yes. He spent about 8 years in a puppy mill up by Storm Lake.
Yeah, tell us his story.
Oh, boy. The puppy mill he was in got out of business, and a rescue group took in several of the dogs, and they had Eddie, and I found him, and I brought him home. And he's just a really classic example of a dog that has come out of one of these situations. He's just not quite a playful, normal doggy. He's kind of a flat affect.
And actually, I'll see if we can remove the banner along the bottom of the screen here so we can get the full effect of how cute and calm this puppy is. And by the way, folks, that's not the state capitol behind us. If it was, we would make sure the dog was on a leash. But okay, so this is an issue again that in the past has received some attention.
Mm-hmm.
And you've already been in contact with legislators. And I do want to talk about that, but give us some background. When people think puppy mill, it's not favorable, and I think in many cases rightfully so. But tell us, what do people need to know about puppy mills to understand why this issue is important?
Sure. Well, it's important for Iowans to know that we have the second largest number of USDA licensed large-scale commercial dog breeding facilities in the nation. We have approximately 250 of them. There are approximately 20,000 adult dogs in those facilities. They are licensed and overseen by the USDA, but our data shows that oversight is sorely lacking. Upwards of 50% of those breeders are cited for violations to the Animal Welfare Act. We have very little local oversight of these facilities, and so that is what we're working on. We're working to try to educate people about how to avoid supporting puppy mills by being careful about where you get your puppies, but then we're also looking for better oversight to protect the dogs that are in the mills.
And I do see that USDA inspections resulted in warnings to 29 puppy mills back in 2011, but only 19 this past year, the year just ended, 2012.
Yes.
So the drop, you could say, okay, well, the situation is improving, or is there a different reason? Is enforcement not as aggressive as it needs to be?
Well, I think the USDA is stepping up. When we first started looking at this issue 4 years ago now, by the way, at that time we had over 450 licensed commercial facilities in Iowa, and now we're down to 250 approximately. And I think a lot of that is because we did get some state oversight with the passage of the what was called the Puppy Mill Bill back in 2010, which allows the Iowa Department of Agriculture to go into a USDA licensed facility upon receipt of a complaint. Before that bill, they couldn't do that. So we are seeing the USDA stepping up, but there's still a lot left to do.
So why is the inspection of puppies, of breeding facilities, left to the federal government and not the state government? Why not the Iowa Department of Ag or some other element of state government?
It's different from state to state. Some states do have state oversight of the USDA licensed facilities. Iowa does not.
And I don't know why.
I don't either.
I would think that would be something Iowa would want to take control of.
Right. A lot of Iowans care deeply about the welfare of these animals. Plus, it's a huge consumer protection issue for the people who buy these puppies. Most of these puppies are exported out of our state. Approximately 100,000 puppies are produced by these Iowa USDA licensees every year in Iowa, and they're exported. And I hear from people all over the country. In fact, I got a call last night from someone who spent thousands of dollars on vet bills to take care of problems that according to the veterinarian, were the direct result of the breeding conditions that the puppy came from.
Folks, we're talking with Mary LaHaye today with Iowa voters for companion animals, also Iowa Friends of Companion Animals. And you're welcome to join the conversation at 244-0077 or toll-free 244-0077. You can always email me as well at fallonforum@gmail.com. Now, there's a difference, Mary, between puppy mills and legitimate breeding facilities.
Absolutely.
And how would you describe what is the difference? How does one know when you're looking at a puppy mill versus a legitimate facility?
Well, I think there are a couple of key things. Number one, if you're dealing with a reputable breeder, they're not going to be selling their puppies through pet stores, for example. They're not going to sell puppies to just anybody who's willing to fork over the money for it. They want to know who is buying their puppies. They're willing to work with those people, allow those people to get to know them. They would encourage those people to come and see the facility. Puppy mills, they don't want you. They won't let you come and see where these puppies come from.
So are pet stores part of the problem?
Pet stores are the outlet.
Okay, but I mean, I'm assuming that not all pet stores are a problem.
Well, statistics are that upwards of 90% of puppies sold in pet stores are from large-scale commercial breeding facilities. A reputable breeder doesn't breed their dog until they've got buyers for those puppies. Puppy mills are churning out the puppies to fill a demand.
Okay, so yeah, of course, I see what you're saying about that. But I mean, pet stores also play a valuable role in bringing the opportunity for people in neighborhoods to purchase an animal.
Sure. And we really like to see it when pet stores are willing to partner with rescue groups to offer animals that are in rescue situations, to offer those dogs up for adoption through the store.
Overall, is the percentage of pets that are coming through rescue services, is that increasing?
I don't have an answer to that. I don't know. I don't.
I mean, I think if it was, that would, again, there'd be one of two possible interpretations. One, more people are getting their pets from that source, and that's a good thing. It's cutting down on the number that go to that might be euthanized, or it could also indicate that that the number of pets needing to be rescued is decreasing. So I guess either one of those is favorable. But it'd be interesting to see what those numbers are. But in Iowa, again, as you noted earlier, the USDA inspections aren't really finding. Now, again, the number of inspections is not adequate because there's understaffing issues.
Correct.
But the number of facilities, the number of puppy mills that are being cited for violations was, I think, 12% in 2011 and 8% in 2012.
No, it consistently runs in the 40 to 50%.
40 to 50%.
40 for 50% of breeders are cited for violations to the Animal Welfare Act.
Okay.
And then
I had the numbers wrong then. Yeah.
And then what we have found since the passage of the puppy mill bill is that when these breeders get into trouble and are cited for these situations, if we go to local law enforcement to try to get help for these animals, they are hesitant to pursue this because there's a potential significant cost to the county to rescue these animals, because there's a certain amount of time that they have to hold the animals before a disposition hearing, and the costs of doing that. We've got breeders in the state that have as many as 1,000 dogs on site.
Really?
If something were to happen where those dogs would have to be rescued, it's estimated that it would cost about $200 per dog to hold them for that 2-week time period. So you can see where. So
these are essentially dog confinements. I mean, people are upset about hog confinements.
Yes.
And about turkeys and chickens living in cramped conditions. There's been a big movement nationally to do something about the size of cages.
Right.
And so but that's really what we're talking about when it comes to dogs. Is when you get that many animals at one location.
Yes, dogs kept in small wire-bottomed cages. The wire bottoms hurt their feet. They're denied any kind of companionship, and we have tinkered with these animals over the centuries to make them want human companionship.
Sure, yes.
So to have those animals in these confined situations is quite inhumane. Yeah. And they live their entire lives in that situation. The females are bred every heat cycle until their little bodies wear out, and then they're euthanized in ways we don't even want to talk about.
Ugh. So the legislation passed a few was it 2 years ago, 3 years ago?
It was in 2010.
2010. That has had some favorable impact.
It has.
And how would you describe that impact overall? Again, just to summarize it.
I think that a fair number of breeders who felt like they were skirting without as much oversight as they might encounter now, a lot of them got out of the business.
Okay. They kind of woke up to see that people are paying attention.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And so what additional needs to happen legislatively to bring even more, more oversight and decent conditions to the industry?
Right. Well, what we introduced last year was a bill that would require a breeder, if they lose or relinquish their license, voluntarily or otherwise, that they would be required to get rid of their dogs. They can keep up to 3, but they would have to get rid of the rest of their dogs. If they've got 200, 400, 800, 1,000 dogs and they've lost their license now, we had situations where some of those breeders just kept those dogs, and we had one situation where an eyewitness saw the dogs literally rotting to death in their cages. Yeah. And so we would require breeders to get rid of those dogs if they lose their license, or they can get a new license if they can qualify for that. And then the second bill was to provide for some funding for local law enforcement to use in the event of a rescue situation.
It sounds like a fairly no-nonsense proposal. It sounds like one that most people would think was reasonable and would get behind. What's the response at the State House?
Well, last year, the bill that would have required some funding for potential rescue of animals got through the Senate and actually had a fair amount of Republican support. That went through the Senate. It stalled in the House. Our bills, for whatever reason, this is turning into a partisan issue with ag interests just not wanting any kind of animal welfare.
But the dog is not an agricultural animal.
Well, they worry about the slippery slope.
Okay, so they think that tougher regulations on puppy mills will lead to tougher regulations on okay, I get you.
Yes.
on hogs and cattle and whatnot. Yeah.
Yes.
But that's not. And I support those changes, but again, I think that slippery slope is a figment of someone's imagination.
Yes, and you could apply that to any bill that ever comes down the pike on any issue. You can always say that, but it's not the case. And in our organization, we call ourselves Iowa Voters and Iowa Friends of and for Companion Animals because that's what we're sticking to, our companion animals.
So who is opposed to, are there organizations, is Farm Bureau opposed to this legislation?
Well, they sure weren't supportive.
Well, or now being not supportive and being opposed in legislative parlance are two different things.
Right.
Which one were they?
Well, I would have to say opposed.
Okay, and are they likely to stay that way?
I haven't heard any indication otherwise. And then the breeders themselves have a political action committee too.
I was wondering
state.
whether they got organized.
Yes, and they've had a lobbyist at the Capitol for years. That's why the laws are as bad as they are in protecting the animals out there.
Yeah. How many puppy mills statewide are we talking about?
Right now, there's about 250 of them.
Okay, right, and so that's not a huge constituency.
No.
But they have a lot of money. And that's often what counts at the State House is not numbers of voters, but numbers of dollars.
Well, and I don't think their lobbying group is so much the issue as it is the agri interests that are allowing them to hide behind their skirts.
We have a map of the location of puppy mills across the state and some photos that you've shared with us about some of the conditions in these places. So, Maddie, if we could go to those photos now, that would be great.
The first one is a map showing the approximate locations of USDA licensees in the state, and this changes constantly, so it may or may not be entirely accurate for every county, but you'll see there's that trend of that heavy concentration up in northwest Iowa, heavy concentration down in southeast Iowa. That continues.
Okay, and so only one in Polk County.
Yes, and that one I believe has gone under now, so
really?
That one's gone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and again, none of these would be considered legitimate in terms of I mean, these aren't legitimate breeders.
Well, these are USDA licensees, and there's really no way of knowing
okay.
just
So
how
some of them
bad
might
they
be-
are.
Some of them might be okay.
Some of them might be just fine, but
Okay.
50% of them have been cited for significant violations.
Let's look at some of the pictures you have from puppy mills.
This was a breeder down in southeast Iowa. They operated for years like this. They've recently been have relinquished their license, but this was a situation that I was after for quite a while, and but they operated for years like this.
So how do you find out about this? Does somebody turn them in?
Well, USDA inspections are available online, so I monitor those. Okay. And now their inspectors have started taking pictures too, and I've received those through the Freedom of Information Act.
And how many puppies would normally be in one of these cages?
That it's all over the board. It depends.
Really?
It depends. That's one of the problems with the USDA requirements is that the cage size, all they have to do is measure the length of the dog, add 6 inches, and that is the size cage square that that animal can live in its entire life.
Now, this looks a lot like Eddie.
This looks a lot like Eddie. This was a dog that is a dog that's down in south central Iowa, and this particular image was taken in a January inspection, and the dog was noted as visibly shaking and in distress from the cold. It didn't have any protection from the cold.
Same dog?
No, this is a different dog, a breeder up near Sioux City. Showing a classic example of, we read a lot about a lot of eye issues with these animals because of the high ammonia levels.
Oh, sure.
From the waste products, and then also injuries, a lot of cage fighting, things like that. So that's a dog. A lot of lack of veterinary care. This is a breeder down in southeast Iowa. It's a good image showing the isolation. And this particular breeder was cited for, these dogs were living in complete darkness in a barn. Very, very.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody thinks that should be legal.
Well, yeah, I don't understand either, because we can sure do a better job. But
I mean, Farm Bureau can argue the agricultural importance of turkeys, chickens, hogs. I mean, I'll disagree with them on some of that. But this is a totally different issue. These aren't agricultural animals,
right?
I'm not even sure why USDA is the one overseeing it.
Yes,
I mean, to me, it would be an issue of Department of Inspections and Appeals in Iowa. Would be the appropriate agency to take a look at it.
I would love to see some sort of a change like that.
What's the story here, Mary?
That's another southeast Iowa breeder with a lot of dogs in what appears to me, anyway, to be a former hog facility.
It does,
a couple of issues also in relating these to ag animals. Ag animals, again, we can talk about some of the issues related to confinements and things such as that. But fact of the matter is, ag animals don't live very long. They may not be in the best of situations, but they don't live very long. These dogs live in these facilities sometimes for 8 and 10 years.
Right. Yeah, and that's a huge difference too.
Yes, and an abused and injured and sickly adult dog can still give birth to cute, fluffy puppies and still bring
that owner some
money.
Yeah.
Yes. So there's not a lot to incent the breeders to keep the animals necessarily.
Well, Mary,
healthy.
thank you for your work, and
thanks.
and good luck at the State House this year.
Thank you.
If folks want to get involved and want to weigh in at all, what should they do?
Well, I sure hope people would go to our website, www.iowavca.org, and sign up for our e-newsletters, and we send out alerts, calls to action when we're in the Capitol. And then also just be really cognizant of where you're buying a puppy if you're going to buy a puppy. First of all, we promote for the adoption of rescue dogs. You can find rescue breed-specific rescues all over the country. But if you insist on a puppy, you have to visit the kennel, you have to see the mother, and you have to see where she lives. Don't accept any excuse for not being allowed to do so.
Yeah, every pet I've ever owned, except when I was in first grade, we bought a pet. A dog, and I was too young to know where that one came from. But every pet I've had since then has been a stray that we have taken in off the streets.
Good.
Or from a shelter. So
yeah, there's a lot of them out there.
Yeah, and I have the cutest cat in the world who is very. I think she's got some. She's a strange cat. She rides on my shoulder. She only likes to drink running water. And she is very confused sometimes. She'll go in, she'll come out. She'll go in, she'll come out. Maybe that's normal for cats.
They enrich our lives, don't they?
They do. Sometimes they frustrate, but they often enrich as well. So, Mary, thank you so much for joining us. Folks,
Thank
Mary
you.
LaHaye with Iowa Voters for Companion Animals and Iowa Friends of Companion Animals. And also, again, I want to thank Eddie, possibly the most well-behaved life form named Ed on the planet. Certainly more well-behaved than the one who's using the microphone right now. Eddie, thank you for joining us. Again, rescued from a puppy mill in Storm Lake.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mary.
Thank you.
Folks, when we come back, we're going to talk with Peter Fisher with the Iowa Policy Project about the commercial property tax proposal on the table that Governor Branstad spoke of yesterday at the Condition of the State address. I want to thank Gateway Market for sponsoring this segment of our show. Gateway is at 20th and Woodland in the Sherman Hill neighborhood. It's my grocery store. It ought to be yours as well because the products are great. A lot of them from local sources, local farms, and also the money you spend there stays in the local community. I cannot emphasize how important that is. Folks, give them a check if you haven't been there already. Also, breakfast, lunch, and supper at Gateway Market and Cafe, and they've got a great catering service as well. I want to thank Physicians for Social Responsibility and the Iowa chapter of the Sierra Club for sponsoring this program. We'll be back in a minute.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
The dawn of a new era begins.
Well, good morning. This is the 7th of June in the Lord's year 2010, and this is day 1 of webcast1live.com. We will begin with Max World Live with my special guest, Tom Coates. In just a minute, there's Tom. Wait. Howdy. And we will be live for the very first time on Webcast One Live. Someday we're going to look back on this and say, gosh, remember that old day in history? Wonder where Walter Cronkite was. He must have been around hanging there too. But actually, it's the beginning of Webcast One Live. And thank you for listening. Thanks, Rob Spearman, and everybody who's put together this project together. And we're ready to go live now. So thanks for listening to MaxWorldLive.com.
I can't tell you that it's going real well from time to time, but it is going, man.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Favors Neighbors bringing us back to the conversation here on the Fallon Forum. I want to thank Reynolds Energy Solutions for sponsoring this segment of the program. And I want to thank Tom Brady for being the most important man in America right now. And, you know, Brady, I mean, again, not only does he have this really cool facial hair thing going on, but he, you know, he's a funny guy. He's check this out. This is Brady in a commercial. Check this out.
Well, now that we need it, I'm having a connection problem.
Oh.
So, you know, now that we want to play it.
Well, somebody has to get fired over this, don't you think?
Uh-huh.
We'll do that later. Anyway, let's go to our phone lines. I want to welcome Peter Fisher to the show. Peter, welcome to the Fallon Forum. Hello, Peter.
Yeah, I'm there. Are you?
I am here as well.
Okay.
All right. So Governor Branstad yesterday talking about his passion for doing things for the business community. He proposes a $400 million package which would reduce tax bills on commercial and industrial property. And he claims it's at a critical element to attracting businesses to Iowa. He has described this as a compromise, and some kudos from Republicans in the Iowa House, but Senate Democrats remain skeptical and are saying not so fast. What's your take on the proposal?
Well, I think the first thing to recognize is that the case for cutting property taxes on commercial and industrial property has been oversold because their proponents are alone. When you look at the overall business tax bill in Iowa, on average, we are about average. We're not standing out as a high tax place. So,
average in terms of the national scene.
Looking at all 50 states,
okay,
country as a whole, we're competitive already. So the case for doing something drastic has been oversold. But
okay.
That said, there is a problem because we have small town businesses, for example, might have been where they are for a long time, paying the full freight and property taxes. But then we go and give away property taxes for 10 years, 15, 20 through TIF rebates to some new company that might be a Walmart locating on the periphery and helping to put the mom and pop stores out of business. So there is an issue, but this isn't the solution.
So again, when I hear property tax reductions, I mean that's not going to help me as a small business owner. I have some friends who do, some of their investment involves property. In some cases, they may own an office. More often, they're renting. Increasingly, small business owners, are just operating out of their home or a coffee shop or wherever they can find an internet connection, wherever their cell phone works. And so, and I know there are even small to medium-sized businesses that do own property. But and you're saying that Branstad is claiming that their burden is punitive when compared with statistics around the country. You're saying that we're about average.
If you look at all taxes paid by business, property, corporate income, individual income taxes for proprietorships, sales taxes on stuff they buy, you put it all together, which is the way you ought to look at it. We're about average.
So Branstad is just choosing to look at the commercial, the property tax component of what a business might pay, and based on that, he's determining that we have a problem, and he's proposing a solution.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So again, the Senate does not seem to be buying this.
Well, I would expect the Senate to come back with something akin to what they have proposed in the past, which is to say, if we're going to do something on commercial property taxes, and a lot of Democrats have bought into this idea that we need to do something, let's target it at the smaller businesses. And you do that by making a business homestead credit that exempts taxes on the first, $100,000, $500,000, pick a number. But if you own $100 million in property, you don't get any more tax rebate after that. You just get taxes on the first $500,000.
In Branstad's proposal, the more you have, the bigger break you'll get.
Exactly, it's across the board.
But even what Senate Democrats are proposing, what you're talking about right there, That's only going to help businesses that have significant investments in property.
Well, although, if you rent property, your landlord is paying property taxes. He's got to cover that out of your rent. So, but you're right. It's going to help mostly the small businesses who own property.
I mean, what I'd like to see is more income. I would like to see tax relief. Personally, income tax relief would be really helpful. I mean, the property tax thing, I mean, and I don't know how many other, I'm assuming there's a lot of small business owners who are in a similar situation. Either they've got no property or limited amounts, and they're getting hit harder on the income tax level.
Well, yeah, maybe. I don't know how hard they're getting hit on income taxes. We're not a high income tax state.
Well, and then truthfully, most of my hit is from the federal level.
Yes, I'm sure. Yeah, if you want to look at the income tax, there are some things that need doing there. We don't really give the recognition to the cost of raising a family that the federal tax does. I mean, there are families that are, because of federal credits, are exempt from Iowa income tax and have, I'm exempt from federal, but still have to pay some Iowa tax.
So if, again, you're concerned that even Democrats seem to be, at some level, going along with Branstad's proposal, or at least not opposing it, to the extent that you think is in order, given what's really needed. I mean,
it remains to be seen. I mean, I think the size of the Democratic package, the amount they're willing to put forward, it got bigger as the session went on last year, and finally a couple of them said, "No, this is too much." So, if we're looking at a package with modest costs, and here's the key thing, I think, if the state government thinks this is a competitiveness issue, state government ought to be financing it, period, and not just saying, well,
right,
we'll make it up to you, wink, wink, nod, nod. I mean, local governments know that in the long run, if it's a promise to provide appropriations to make them whole for this.
Well, yeah, and to be clear, that's the problem. Yeah. I mean, the cities across the state have been opposed to this proposal because that property, I mean, they're the ones who use property tax to deliver services. They would lose the revenue. And now the state government, the Branstad and others are proposing that the state reimburse them. And you're saying that local governments have gotten smart to these kind. I mean, really, it's kind of an unfunded mandate in the long run, even though it might be funded in the short term. Is that one way of trying to paraphrase what you're saying, Peter?
Yeah, I think the local governments are saying, well, we're not going to be, Charlie Brown with the football one more time. We've had this happen before, and, after a few years, state says, well, guess what, we're not going to reimburse you anymore.
All right. Well,
but you can provide a credit that is state funded. I mean, if the business uses the property tax bill to file for a credit with the state income tax, then that doesn't come out of the locality's hide, and it's not going to be there. The credit isn't going to be there unless the state continues to provide it under the income tax law.
Now one reason Governor Branstad has been indicating that he thinks this is needed is because the need for making Iowa more competitive, forced his hand to provide incentives that, when you throw in other local taxing, tax benefits, it came to $251 million for one Egyptian fertilizer company to locate on Iowa's eastern seaboard, if I can call it eastern coast, and another 71 million maybe for another fertilizer company on the Missouri River. And he was saying that, well, I wouldn't need to do this if our commercial property tax situation was more competitive. And I've always thought that is a transparently, you cannot substantiate that argument. You're basically just, trying to find any way possible to justify what you want to do on property taxes while continuing to do these corporate giveaways that have become very, very common in the state.
Well, right, and he didn't give away the property taxes. They provided incentives on top of what the county decided to do for property taxes.
And some of that was money that was supposed to be for flood relief. And that was quite a stretch to imagine how they could come up with a flood, relief for the flood of 2008 to give an Egyptian fertilizer company a handout in 2012.
Well, it was legal under the terms of that bill, and the interesting thing to me was that this was a huge benefit to the firm that only Iowa was in a position to offer, because the counties that they were looking at in Illinois that supposedly were competing with, they weren't eligible for that money.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we needed to give them anything beyond that federal interest, bond interest exemption.
Yeah, but depending on how you do the math, it comes out to somewhere between $650,000 per job and $1.5 million per job. That's just crazy. Well, Peter, Peter, thank you for joining us, and I hope you'll keep us posted on your thoughts on this subject, because I think it's going to be a fairly prominent conversation at the State House this year.
Yeah, it will be, and I will keep you posted.
Great, thank you so much. Peter Fisher with the Iowa Policy Project. Folks, I want to thank Reynolds Energy Solutions for sponsoring this segment of our program. If you have not yet had an energy audit done with Tim Reynolds, you have not had an energy audit done. Again, the ones you'll get done by the utility company are, a lot more minimal than what Tim will do. Tim will find lots of things that you'll never catch otherwise. I have friends who thought their home was about as energy efficient as possible. He found a whole bunch of stuff. They got some work done, and they're very happy about it. Again, the audit itself is free. You're under no commitment beyond that. But if you like what Tim is talking about, if you think he's got a point there in terms of what you can save on money and on heat, you can go further. But at any rate, there's no reason not to get the audit done and know what you're up against. Give him a shout, folks. His name's Tim Reynolds. He's with Reynolds Energy Solutions. 802-2801, 802-2801, or ReynoldsEnergySolutions.com. We're going to come back in a few minutes with Mary Beth Gardam joining us from the Iowa State House. She's with a group that's lobbying for an end to corporate personhood. Yes, that issue is alive and moving at the State House. At least the citizens who know it's a problem are doing their best to move it forward. We'll talk about that when we come back from a brief timeout here on the Fallon Forum.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey folks, it's Ed Fallon. I want to tell you about saving energy and saving money. Tim Reynolds with Reynolds Energy Solutions will give you a comprehensive energy audit that will cost you nothing. And Tim will identify the many ways in which you can reduce energy use while saving money. Now, I had Tim over for an audit last month, and I was amazed, I tell you, at how much energy was going through the roof, out the windows, the back door. You get it. So before the cold winds of winter really blow hard, give Tim a call at 802-2801. That's 802-2801.
I'm a burrito.
I'm a fighting burrito, full of fresh ingredients prepared before your very eyes.
I don't have eyes.
I have over 28 options and 268 million combinations, including Rizzo for vegetarians.
I can take my meat off and call myself vegetarian.
Put that back on. The Fighting Burrito is locally owned.
I'm owned by some big corporation somewhere. Say, you want to go on a date?
No thanks. I'm seeing a quesadilla.
The Fighting Burrito online, fightingburrito.com. Join the fight.
Times are tough, and most people are just trying to make their cars last a little bit longer. That's why you should know about Sargent's Garage in Des Moines. You can trust Sargent's to make the right diagnosis and give you a fair price. Whether it's a routine oil change or a major repair, Sargent's always does outstanding work. So don't give up on that old car just yet. Call Sargent's Garage at 246-8149. That's 246-8149 for Sargent's Garage.
Ludwig van Beethoven here. I used to be so tired all the time, not from composing and playing, but from moving my piano. But now I feel so much better. I call S&P Piano, and they will bring my piano anywhere. They also sell and rent pianos, used ones, new ones. You get the idea.
Call S&P Piano right away at 208-6453. That's 208-6453.
S&P Piano.
Nestled in the heart of downtown, Ritual Cafe is one of Des Moines' most unique places, offering a wide variety of coffee and tea. Ritual Cafe also serves the only all-vegetarian menu in town. And Ritual Cafe is a cultural hub for artists and musicians, with a performance stage hosting local, national, and international talent. Make Ritual Cafe a part of your daily ritual. on 13th Street between Locust and Grand in downtown Des Moines. And check out ritualcafe.com.
Wow, some wedding.
Yeah, I've never seen a bride in coveralls.
Right, and skipping down the aisle to accordion music.
Not to mention the reception. That wedding cake was a freaking fruit cake.
It's your wedding. Don't leave anything to chance. Diana's Wedding Cakes. Using only the finest, freshest ingredients with free on-time delivery and setup. Choose one of Diana's custom designs or create your own. Call Diana's Wedding Cakes, 641-275-9279. That's 641-275-9279.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Bringing us back. And I want to remind you, too, that Max Wellman's trio, the Max Wellman Trio, will be performing twice on Valentine's Day, 7 p.m. and 9 p.m. We'll have more information about that for you, but it might be a great way to celebrate Valentine's Day. I also want to thank Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering for sponsoring this segment of our show. We're going to talk shortly with Mary Beth Garden, but I got to tell you, folks, we might as well just cancel the Super Bowl. We know that the Patriots are going to win. There's really not much point in even going through with it, but, I mean, there's one good reason to go through with it, just so we can admire the grace and integrity of Tom Brady. And if Maddie has that clip, we'll play it. If she doesn't, we'll save it for some other day. We're going to save it for some other day. I want to go to our phone lines and welcome Mary Beth Garden to the conversation. She's calling us from the State House for the Reclaim Democracy Rally. This is happening today. So thank you very much for taking time out to give us a buzz. This is an event to get big money out of our government. Again, this is the second day that we've seen significant citizen presence at the State House on issues really important to the majority of Iowans. Mary Beth, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Ed. Good to be there.
Where are you?
I'm standing right outside room 116 committee room on the first floor of the beautiful Iowa State Capitol.
And what's happening in room 116?
In room 116, we have about 60 very energized folks who've traveled from as far as Sioux City and Fairfield and Iowa City and Cedar Falls and Davenport to be with us and express their concerns about how much big money is in politics these days and how difficult it is for ordinary people here in Iowa to have their voices heard.
Well, we saw an interesting story in the Register on the opening day of session regarding the amount of money that legislators, particularly legislative leaders, pulled in from lobbyists and other lobbyists and political action committees the day before session starts, because 12 midnight, the first day of session, is when a ban goes in. You cannot take money from a lobbyist or a PAC throughout the session. So they were cashing in big time before it starts. That should say volumes about the power of money in politics and the power that those organizations that can afford to play that game have.
So ridiculous. Senator Jeff Danielson from Waterloo, Cedar Falls, just addressed us about this and said that this session, this will be a very big aim for him. He's going to be introducing resolutions to reverse, for a constitutional amendment to reverse Citizens United at the federal level.
Okay, so people know Citizens United was the Supreme Court ruling that said corporations can spend unlimited amounts of money in political campaigns. That's in direct. That eliminated a provision that had been around for about 100 years, passed back in response to the Gilded Age. Actually, Richard Doak talked about this in his excellent opinion piece in the Register this weekend. But
well, and that's why so much money was spent in 2012 than ever before.
Right.
So much more.
Because Citizens United, that ruling blew the lid off the cap. So Danielson thinks there would be some interest in a resolution to reverse Citizens United.
Well, he made a very good point that Iowa, as first in the nation for the caucuses, should be very concerned about having a pristine election campaign finance reform law. And he knows that we cannot get one at the state level until we have a national framework at the constitutional level for the Supreme Court. So that's why a constitutional amendment to reverse Citizens United is an important step, followed closely by state laws like Voice, voter-owned Iowa Clean Elections, other locally designed campaign finance reform laws.
Now, to be clear, the Voice law is one that would be modeled after legislation, after the law in Arizona, Connecticut, Maine, where there's an option for people who don't want to have to go out and schmooze lobbyists to run for office. They can opt for a limited amount of money from some type of public pool. They don't have to do it that way. They can run a conventional big money campaign if they want. They can fund their own campaign if they're wealthy, or they can opt for this alternative, as have many legislators in all those states, and not just Democrats, but Republicans as well have opted for that alternative.
Well, legislators are increasingly being held hostage to these big money donors, and they don't like it. They're spending 3/4 of their time raising money, and they're determined to change that. We're hoping that here in Iowa we can get enough of them on our side to support a resolution.
Okay. Now you have Jeff Danielson on your side.
We do have Jeff Danielson. We have Art State on our side. We have Pam Yoakum on our side.
I was going to assume that Pam Yoakum would be a significant ally in the Senate. But now you've got folks in the Senate. I mean, Mike Gronstal has not been a friend of campaign finance reform.
It's true.
Where is he going to be on the issue of the resolution regarding the amendment?
Well, we'll be asking him that later today.
Okay.
And Pam Yoakum will be addressing our group at 2:15 at a media event. So we'll be talking to her some more about that question too. This is a nonpartisan issue, Ed. Whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, corruption is the common enemy and threat to our democracy.
Right, and it's also been a nonpartisan issue from the wrong way of thinking as well. I mean, Democrats used to be in favor of campaign finance reform. When they controlled the House and Senate back in the late 80s, I think they passed it 2, maybe 3 times. I mean, they passed a good campaign finance reform bill. Governor Branstad, he was governor back then, vetoed it. But now, I mean, in more recent history, we had 4 years where we had a Democratic governor, Chet Culver, and the Democrats controlled both the House and the Senate. We couldn't even get the most modest campaign finance proposal passed by either chamber. So things have changed, and you've got, I mean, ideally there would be bipartisan support for doing the right thing, because who wants to be out there spending money all the time? But instead, we have bipartisan opposition to doing the right thing.
In a way, we owe Citizens United a debt of gratitude, because they have really raised the issue so that ordinary Americans are very aware of what's going on, and they are in our camp and really supporting reversing that odious decision.
So we need to thank the Supreme Court and Hillary Clinton and the folks who put together the advertisement against her that led to the lawsuit.
Of course, Citizens United is just the latest in a 200-year attempt of corporations to win personhood rights and steal them away from the regular Americans. Yeah. But, yes, we owe them a debt of gratitude, because for once, the Supreme Court got the attention of the American people simply because of the ridiculous and obscene amounts of money that were unleashed because of that decision.
So they may have overplayed their hand.
They may have.
Okay. Well, we'll see what happens. Mary Beth, I hope you can keep us posted on this. Do folks have plans to come back in the near future to continue putting pressure on the legislature?
On January 29th, the move to amend, along with the Des Moines Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, will be doing a legislative luncheon here at the Capitol, free homemade soup, salad, and pie. And we'll be talking to all of the legislators again about this issue. We feel it's important to get ahead of the session. Every issue that they take on this session will be tinged by the influence of big money, and we want them to know we're watching them. I also wanted to add that this event is co-sponsored by Iowa PIRG, the League of Women Voters, and Stand for Iowa. We're very pleased that we have such a strong coalition.
So regarding this event on the 29th, did you say pie?
Pie.
So are you trying to buy legislator support through food?
You think it could work?
Well, it works really well for some of the lobbyists, but again, they have they probably have pricier pie, and they can probably deliver it more often.
They're probably taking you to a little fancier restaurant than the Capitol cafeteria.
Well, as the recent story pointed out too, it used to be when ethics became a huge public concern back in the early 1990s, the legislature put in a $3 cap. You could not, a lobbyist could not do anything worth more than $3 to wine and dine a lawmaker. In other words, here's your peanut butter and jelly sandwich and half a glass of milk. The legislature changed that.
And in Wisconsin, it's still like that. You can't
Really?
even buy a cup of coffee for a legislator.
Well, to me, that law made sense, and I was opposed to any efforts to erode it, and I was able to defeat some efforts to erode it. But then there was a change made that passed, and that was that you could offer any lawmaker something of greater value than $3 if the event was open to the public. Well, we found a way to deal with that too. You invite everybody, the homeless, the poor, crash that event, have a great time.
Well, and if you have unlimited money to spend on it, why
yes.
not?
Yeah. Anyway, Mary Beth, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for inviting me. And on behalf of IPERG and League of Women Voters and Stand for Iowa, we're grateful for the opportunity to talk to your audience.
All right, thank you. We got a few minutes left, folks, at 244-0077, 244-0077 if you'd like to weigh in on the conversation. Let's go to line one. Who do we got, Maddie? Frank, she said. Frank. That's what she said, Frank, was Frank.
That's right.
All right. Frank, what's up?
Is that me?
That's you.
Let's talk V-twins today.
Your phone sounds funny, by the way. It's very...
Oh, sorry. I don't know. Maybe it's the phone.
Okay.
Are you hearing me okay?
It's just fuzzy.
Oh, okay. Well, let's talk V-twins and not Harley-Davidson motorcycles.
V-twins?
V-twins.
I don't know what that means.
Well, you liberals and progressives have...
No. There's a difference between a liberal and a progressive. I'm going to read you the very well-articulated distinction between liberal and progressive, and you can tell me what you think.
Let's pinpoint it on the liberal.
Okay. Again, Richard Doak saying that we don't need a liberal party. Liberal and progressive are not synonymous. Let the Democrats have a liberal party that focuses on government solutions. A progressive party would have a different focus. It would work on the public good against both the oppression of big business and big government.
Okay, quickly here.
Yes, thank you.
Liberals have spent a good part of my lifetime, making people victims of something. And that's the one B.
Well, I don't know. Give me an example. What are you talking about?
I'll give you an example here in my finishing statement here. You made victims out of everybody in the Democratic Party, to get voted in office. Well, where you got a victim, you got to have the other V, the other twin V, called a villain.
I don't even know what you're talking about, Frank.
Victims and villains.
Are you talking about the 47% that think government owes them a handout?
Do you believe in the second commandment about having no other gods before me? I mean, you are focused on two things on your show radically: corporate America and global warming or climate change.
Those are part of the climate change is part of the corporate America problem. The other problem, Frank, is a government that has become unresponsive to the common good. To me, I think that's where we ought to be able to find common ground.
Okay,
Ed, corporations are getting rich. The wealthy are just cashing in on more and more of this country's economic power. And government continues to grow and serve their needs and not ours. I would think that's a conversation we ought to be able to be on the same page on, Frank.
Well, here's the problem, Ed. Your guy you voted for last November,
without a heck of a lot of enthusiasm,
his first inauguration, 600 private jets flew in for his inauguration. Now, how many? I'm going to guess there's going to be that many or more. And how many of them are corporate jets? So you're sitting there and you're talking about corporate America, but yet the guy you voted for is so cozy with corporate America it ain't even funny.
Frank, I'm an equal opportunity critic. How many times have you heard me criticize the Obama administration on the show? Probably more often than I've said, "Hey, good job." So, I mean, I don't know where you're coming from on that.
I'm just saying, though, you're like the Russians in the U.S. in a nuclear lay down your arms. well, the U.S. says, well, hey, we'll lay ours down if you lay yours down. Russia says, well, we'll lay ours down if you lay yours down. Well, how about the Democrats being the big guy in the room and laying down their corporate stuff and setting the precedent and the example for everybody else to follow? But they don't want to lay theirs down.
Amen. Frank, I would be totally for that. And, do you remember, Frank, I served for 14 years in the Iowa House. In every single campaign, 7 campaigns, I never took a penny from a political action committee, from a lobbyist, or from any donor more than $100.
Well, good man, Ed.
Well, thank you. Now, when I ran for governor, I didn't take any PAC money or lobbyist money either, or when I ran for Congress.
That's probably why you lost.
No, it's not why I lost, but it did hamstring me a little bit. But I slept better at night. But no, I would say even if I had taken money from those sources, it would have been tough because I was running not just against money, but against a government culture within the Democratic Party that doesn't want challenges.
Was you running against a few corrupt politicians?
You might say that.
Yeah, okay. I'll say it. If you can't, I'll say it. You was running against a corrupt politician.
Fair enough. Frank, Frank, thanks for the phone call.
All right, you're welcome.
All right. Folks, good conversation here today. And I want to remind you we'll be back tomorrow. We've got Karen Hoffer, Dr. Karen Hoffer joining us. She was supposed to be with us last week. She'll be with us this week. We're going to talk about again, we're going to look at the mass killing in Sandy Hook and other such tragedies through her eyes as a marriage and family therapist. We're also going to talk with Bob Graham. This is a friend of Ron Yarnell's, and usually Ron's friends are my friends. And I don't know Bob, but I like his take on the Lance Armstrong controversy. And, I don't usually read articles in the sports page. I glance at the statistics and see what's happening, on the weekend. But I read the article today about Lance Armstrong. Good points made. I read Bob's article. Really good points made. I think this is an important conversation for a number of reasons. And, of course, happy to have State Representative Dan Kelly back on the show with us tomorrow. Dan, the Democratic State Rep from Newton, and he's been kind enough to continue to share his inside perspective at the State House on a regular basis. We'll look forward to that conversation. Again, I want to thank Tally's Restaurant, Bar, and Catering for sponsoring this part of our program, this segment of our show. Tally's is at 2712 Beaver Ave in the Beaverdale neighborhood, just south of Urbandale Ave. And some young guys that I was playing Irish music with last night will be performing there on Saturday. So you get to Tally's for great food and drink whenever you can, but this Saturday sounds like an extra treat coming our way. So anyway, folks, give them a look if you haven't been there. If you have, go back and support them. And thank Robert Sanda, the owner, for doing his part to support the alternative to right-wing radio. Speaking of radio, folks, if you are listening to this live, I'll tell you that in 3 hours at 4 o'clock, I will be on KHOI 89.1 FM. This is an exciting new development in the Fallon Forum. We're back on the radio at least one day a week, at least on one station. That station covers all of Story County and can also be heard in parts of Polk and surrounding counties. 89.1 FM, KHOI. That's K, Heart of Iowa. Congratulations to the folks in Ames for pulling that together. It's a big undertaking. Again, folks, I'll be back tomorrow at 12 noon. But before then, Bradshaw will be joining you at 1:30. I want to thank Webcast One Live for providing the studio for the show here in the Skywalk. And I want to thank my wonderful, glorious, and ever indulgent producer, Maddie Arrington, for making all the wheels turn properly.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wondershide.
I'm administrative manager.
I'm the senior technician.
From Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going, though. I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm going to take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
Enough said.
17th, isn't it? Oh, you're right. It is. Yeah, you're right. It is.